Aloha and welcome to PTC 24 in Honolulu. Joining me now is Mayank Srivastava, Chief Executive Officer at PDX Data Centers. And Mayank, welcome to Hawaii.
Thank you.
How's the conference been treating you so far?
Interesting.
You can meet the world here. You had a bit of a long trip as well to get here, but it's worth it.
It is. Good to meet you.
Yeah. Let's talk about the markets in Asia, because Asia is quite a thriving area of the world, and everyone is talking about Asia. We are in the middle of the Pacific, so let alone, so that's why the topic is a big topic here. What are the emerging trends within the digital infrastructure investment landscape in Asia right now?
So I think the first thing is that we don't think of it like Asia. There are many countries there, and each country has its own heartbeat. And you have Japan and Korea and Australia on one side, where 25 million people have 1 gigawatt of capacity. And you have countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, where 100 million people have about 50 megawatts of capacity. So each country has its own heartbeat. And when you're looking at Asia, you have to solve for the country. We have learned it the hard way that, it's better to be humble, recognize the fact that we're not market makers, get into a market, solve for the market, and then take it from there.
Okay, so it's really building the industry step by step.
That's correct.
A very national approach.
And so we are in markets like Singapore and Hong Kong, which we call tier 1 because the hyperscalers are doing heavy stuff and interconnects are solved for.
Yeah.
And then we're in markets like Indonesia, where the hyperscalers are just wetting their feet and interconnects was not solved for till Sunday.
Okay.
So you have to approach each market and try to serve the needs of that market. It's not going to get to the US levels in the next 5 years.
Yeah. It eventually will, because it's
eventually will, yeah. But then again, you have different regulations in each country. Yeah. All of those have to come together. There's different power situations in each country, etc., etc. Yeah. So it takes a bit to.
Yeah. So it's, on the power front, there's so much that needs to be done on a renewable energy deployment.
So renewables, on the contrary, if you look at Asia per se, so India has come up very well. Malaysia is fine. Vietnam has come up surprisingly. Of course, the developed countries are there. And then there are countries like Indonesia, which are surplus on brown power. And as a national policy, they've sort of, not in as many words, but renewables is not the burning priority for them. So for us, it's very close to our hearts, and the next country that we'll be announcing, it will be a renewable powered data center.
All right. Are you going to be doing any investments into renewable energy as well, or are you just bringing in the energy?
So we are owned by I Squared Capital. They have a renewables platform as well. It's called Hexa. And Hexa is doing a lot of renewables across the region. And we just prefer to do PPAs with them and keep moving.
It's going to be a partnership.
It will be a partnership.
The topic on everyone's mouth here in Honolulu, it's AI. So what's your view of AI, and how's it going to change the game across the region? We heard a lot of conversations this morning about GPU demand that's going to come into, anyway, Australia, Indonesia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, pretty much any country. Like I said, it's a very national approach. But what's your view of AI, and how is it going to disrupt things?
So I think a lot of AI is already being used. The learning modules are coming in now. And for the learning module deployments to sort of proliferate within the region, the key considerations are going to be power and renewable energy. And then, of course, the other US-China angle and the whole sort of NVIDIA trying to. So AI will happen. It's very exciting. And all that I've been trying to figure out in this conference is when there's a general sense of AI hitting APAC.
Did you find when?
Jury is still out. Probably 12 to 18 months.
Okay, so it's going to be quick.
The learning model deployment is rather brain dead. So and their location, so those probably should start coming in. But the in-country adoption, where the national AI programs, those are going to take a little bit longer because the countries need to get the capability to actually be able to benefit from the AI ecosystem.
Okay. Speaking of benefiting from AI, one part of the conversation that often goes unnoticed is how will data centers benefit from AI themselves? So how can a facility take advantage of using AI, and what is with the external front as well?
So it's been a bit of a double-edged sword. We barely have half a planet left. And with AI coming in so strongly, it's going to be irresponsible on the operator's part to deploy AI on ground power. And shortly, if all goes well, we will be announcing a renewable powered AI park in Jakarta.
Okay.
To the operators, yes, of course, it's a ton of demand coming in. If you follow the US trends, the lease rates have seen an uptake, etc., etc., etc. So all of that is going to be exciting, but I think with that comes the responsibility of renewable energy. And there's a bit of a risk, if I may, from an operator's perspective, and I liken it to the crypto journey. At a point in time, I guess, I don't know how many, you had 30,000 currencies. You're going to see similar proliferation of startups for AI. As operators, we have to be conscious of the credit risk of our customers. So that's sort of the only nuance that we have to care about, but the rest of it, I think, hopefully, knock wood.
Yeah, hopefully. We've got time to figure it out as well.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned Jakarta and the announcement you're going to be making. I mean, you guys have been super active in Indonesia. You've had an acquisition, you've just signed an MOU, which you announced literally yesterday on day one of the conference. Give us an overview of PX. What's your taking on Indonesia as a company? And walk us through the acquisition, what you're going to be doing with the edge sites, walk us through the MOU that you signed as well here at PTC, what you're going to be doing with that. Just give us an umbrella overview of the strategy for Indonesia.
Decode Indonesia for you?
Yeah.
So Decoded Indonesia is what we call a tier 2 market, and the definition, like I said earlier, is the hyperscalers are wetting their feet and interconnects is not solved for. The mission that we've sort of embarked on is to create a super interconnected digital infrastructure mesh for the country. Just because the country is so large, diverse, 300 islands with people on them. So what we've done is, so the first tranche that we got into Indonesia, we took in 4 data centers, formed a JV, etc. In the second tranche, we've acquired landing stations, tier 2 cities, etc. All of these are connected because our joint venture is with the number 2 telecom operator in the country. So all of these are connected on their network. What we solved for on Sunday was to get the number 1 telecom operator, Telkom, to partner with us and us with them to make sure that both of them have all of their eyeballs available at these locations. We have already, and we'll be formally launching it in Data Cloud, but we already have started establishing IX. We're going to proliferate this across the islands and make sure that the content quest for eyeballs and vice versa is facilitated. That's sort of, if you may call, the edge story. In addition, what we're also doing is, like I said earlier, we are going to announce an AI renewable powered campus in the greater Jakarta area, and we are looking to do a greenfield for cloud deployment in the greater Jakarta area. So essentially what we're trying to do, like I said, is to create a super interconnected digital infrastructure mesh. And we believe that if we create the infrastructure, it will enable a lot more economic activity, and hopefully, Indonesia today is sort of way low down in the digital economy sort of ecosystem. So we hope to give that, be a partner in giving that a fillip, and in the process make some money.
We're all in this for a reason. What's the timeline to bring all that online, especially the greenfield development in Jakarta?
So 6 months.
Okay, so it's going to be this year.
This year.
Okay.
The announcement and the first deployment of renewable powered AI, hopefully, knock wood, all goes well, 6 months.
Okay. Very bit of a sideline question, but beyond Jakarta, Batam, because this is the names that everyone has in their mouth in terms of geographies in Indonesia, where would you say are the next big metros, big regions that will come for the larger deployments within the cities?
Yeah, so this has to be seen in conjunction with the whole of the internet. Right? So there's traffic coming in, landing stations. We've gotten 6 or 8 of them now. There is content being stored in large facilities, which is what I just mentioned. And then there is content being distributed. Today, the only breakout happens in Jakarta. But there are other islands with significant population where it is inefficient for traffic to break out and then go to those locations. Surabaya, Makassar, Medan, all of these are towns which, with decent populations, large gaming revenues. That means content is being consumed. We're just going to take the inefficiency out of the distribution and make sure that the user experience improves.
Interesting. And then, of course, beyond Indonesia, you've also got footprint in China, Singapore, Hong Kong. Give us an idea of what the plans are for those 3 locations, and then any other new locations that you can share, that you're allowed to share.
So Singapore and Hong Kong are what we call tier 1 markets, where, like I said, hyperscalers are strong and interconnects are solved for. So for tier 1 markets, we only do hyperscale builds. And because interconnects are solved for, so we don't really need to put in the effort like we had to in Indonesia to get the 2 of the biggest guys to come together. We just need to facilitate more breakout points. So that's a very easy problem to solve. The newer countries that we're getting into, and you'll know it by the end of the month, is again, like I said, because of half our planet, are going to be renewable powered data centers. We start off with hyperscale deployment and then we solve for the edge.
I mean, I know we've already mentioned quite a lot renewable energy and power, but specifically to BDX and across the entire portfolio, what else are you going to be doing around sustainability? And then maybe another layer to the question, which is how do you communicate that into the local communities where we build facilities? Because maybe, I don't know if in Asia is a big issue, but you'll be aware that in Europe, the US, there's a lot of backlash now with local communities who don't want these boxes to be built in their backyards. So, yeah, tell us about your sustainability strategy, and then if there's also a community angle to the story.
So, I hate it when people adopt sustainability because of community pressure or because of customer pressure or because of investor pressure. I think as people who have a significant contribution to the environment degradation, if every single operator is not aware of the fact that we barely have half our planet left and does not act proactively on that, I think we're doing injustice to ourselves. Having said that, I do not think of sustainability as a cost. I believe in the principle that if you're doing a sustainable business, it will more than pay back for itself. And we are in the process of stitching that framework for ourselves. People have solved it a few times around. We are stitching it for ourselves. And hopefully, we will end up being sustainable and more profitable. So that's sort of a 30,000-foot view of it. You want to get into a lot more details, probably I'll connect you with my ESG head and you can continue the conversation.
Yeah, we can always see what more Dennis's come up with. But I'm not going to keep you for much longer because I know you've got a lot of hands to shake. Let's take advantage of that. But one final question is, within the next 12 months, when we get back here for PTC 25, what's the one thing you would like to have seen the industry agree on, come together and have executed? So something achievable for the next 12 months for the industry.
So I'll talk only for the region. And I think for the region, the industry does need to come together to educate the governments and the regulators. Today, there are enough and more countries who are vying for hyperscale deployments without probably realizing that their grid only has a 7% surplus. So if a 100 megawatt facility were to really come online and start kicking, the national grid would shake. renewable energy, sustainability. All of these are things which, like I said, each country has a different view on. And it is imperative for these countries to at some point start being on the same page. It's going to be beneficial to the entire ecosystem, including themselves, the customers, all stakeholders.
It's an enabler.
It has to be enabled. Privacy laws. I mean, from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, Australia.
It's hours of conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Australia has, like I said, 25 million people, a gigawatt of capacity, all because of privacy laws. Philippines has 100 million people and 50 megawatts of capacity. So I think that it is imperative for the industry to come together and start conversations with the government on some of these key issues of regulations, power, laws, etc. And we need to get the region to be a homogeneous region rather than different heartbeats all over.
It's an absolute issue that we need to really address.
Absolutely.
And hopefully 2024 is going to do that. But Mayank Srivastava, CEO of BDX Data Centers, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And as for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our social media channels and website for more news about digital infrastructure from across the globe. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Mahalo.